James McDonald stood at the departure gate of Chicago O'Hare Airport, clutching his boarding pass to Accra. His 38-year engineering career had just ended, his retirement pension had been deposited, and his life seemed to have reached a major crossroads. 2 years after his wife Mary died of cancer, James had been contemplating the meaning of life. They had no children, which had always been a regret in his heart. Mary used to comfort him by saying their love was complete enough, but deep down James always longed to become a father, to continue his bloodline and love. Last year at an international conference on sustainable energy, James met Kofi Asama, an engineer from Ghana. Kofi warmly invited him to visit Ghana and half-jokingly said, "James, you should come experience our way of life. In our culture, a man can have multiple wives, which means many children and a very lively family." At the time, James just laughed, but this idea took root in his mind. As his retirement date approached, he considered this possibility more and more seriously. He began researching Ghana's culture, history, and legal system, discovering that while polygamy was no longer common in modern Ghanaian society, it was still accepted and practiced in certain regions and communities. The boarding announcement sounded, and James took a deep breath as he stepped onto the flight to West Africa. He didn't know what this journey would bring him, but he knew he needed a complete life restart. The heat and humidity of Accra immediately enveloped James. Kofi was waiting at the airport with a brilliant smile on his face. The two old friends embraced tightly, and Kofi said in fluent English, "Welcome to my homeland, my friend." Kofi drove James through the streets of Accra. James was deeply shocked by what he saw. Busy markets, colorful fabrics, enthusiastic people, and that atmosphere full of vitality. This was completely different from his life in Chicago. "Where are your wives?" James asked curiously. Kofi laughed heartily. "I only have one wife, Amma, but my uncle indeed has 3 wives. We'll go meet them tonight." That evening, Kofi brought James to a traditional Ghanaian family gathering. Kofi's uncle Kwasi was a successful businessman, and his 3 wives Akojua, Afua, and Ifio were respectively responsible for different aspects of the household. James observed the interactions of this large family and was surprised to find that there wasn't the arguing and jealousy he had imagined, but rather harmony and cooperation. "The key is respect and communication," Kwasi explained to James. "Each wife has her own role and position, and I must treat them fairly. This isn't about desire, but about responsibility and love." That night, James lay in the guest room at Kofi's house, listening to the chirping of night insects outside his window. He began to think that perhaps polygamy wasn't as primitive or immoral as Western society imagined, but rather a different way of organizing families, a way to create a larger network of love and support. Over the following weeks, James deeply explored Ghanaian traditional culture. Kofi took him to visit the historic Elmina Castle, which had once been a center of the slave trade. Standing before those dark dungeons, James felt the weight of history and began to understand why Ghanaians placed such importance on family continuation and expansion. "Our ancestors lost too much," Kofi told him. "That's why we especially cherish family unity and prosperity." The polygamous system in the past helped our communities quickly recover their population and ensured children had adequate care. James also attended local Ashani tribal meetings, where he met 4 women who impressed him greatly. Akua was a 35-year-old teacher, intelligent and independent. Ajuman was a 28-year-old nurse, gentle yet strong. Esi was a 32-year-old craftsperson, full of creativity. And Abina was a 29-year-old agricultural expert, vibrant with energy. These 4 women were all single, and they showed great interest in James, this engineer from America, not because of his wealth, but because of his respect for Ghanaian culture and his sincere attitude toward learning. "Why do you want to understand our traditions?" Akua asked James during a tea gathering. James answered honestly, "Because I'm searching for new meaning in life. I lost my wife, have no children, and I hope to start over, experience different ways of living, and perhaps become a father. The four women exchanged glances, seeming to see something special in this candid American man. As time passed, James's relationships with these four women gradually deepened. He helped Acua improve the school's teaching equipment, using his engineering knowledge to solve classroom lighting and ventilation problems. He worked with Ajuman to design a more efficient medical waste disposal system for the local clinic. He assisted ESI in developing new ways to display handicrafts, attracting more tourists. He also helped Abina improve irrigation systems, increasing crop yields. Through these collaborations, James found himself deeply attracted to the wisdom, kindness, and strength of these four women. Each had unique charm and talents, and they seemed to begin appreciating James's honesty, sense of responsibility, and respect for their culture. 1 month later, on a full moon night, the four women came to James's residence. Acua spoke for them. James, we've been discussing you. We are all independent women with our own careers and dreams. But we also want families and children. In our tradition, a good man can love several women simultaneously, as long as he can take responsibility. Ajuman continued, we don't need you to abandon your culture, and we won't abandon ours. But perhaps we can create a new way of life, one that combines the essence of both cultures. ESI added, we've been observing you for a long time. You're a good man, a responsible man. You respect each of us and never try to make us compete with each other. Finally, Abina said, we want to propose that if you're willing, we could try to establish a diverse family. Not because tradition forces us, but because we choose to believe love can take many forms. James was deeply moved. Looking at these four beautiful, intelligent women, he felt an unprecedented sense of being loved and needed. After careful consideration and discussions with family and friends, James made one of the most important decisions of his life. He accepted the four women's proposal and decided to establish a polygamous family with them. The wedding was held according to Ghanaian tradition, but also incorporated some modern elements. James wore a traditional Kent cloth robe, and the four brides wore traditional clothing representing different regions. The ceremony was conducted under the supervision of Ashanti tribal elders, with the entire community coming to bless this special union. Kofi, as James's best friend, gave a moving speech at the wedding. Today we witness not just a wedding, but the fusion of two cultures, the diverse expression of love. James has chosen our tradition, and our sisters have chosen trust and openness. This family will become a bridge for cultural exchange. After the wedding, James used his retirement funds to purchase land on the outskirts of Accra and built a large house. The design of this house combined American practicality with Ghanaian traditional aesthetics. Each wife had her own living room and workspace, while sharing common dining rooms, living rooms, and gardens. James established a rotation system to ensure he had equal time with each wife. Monday and Tuesday with Acua, Wednesday and Thursday with Ajuman, Friday and Saturday with ESI, Sunday with Abina, and part of each weekend was spent together as a whole family. This arrangement was initially challenging, requiring extensive communication and adjustment. But James and his wives were all committed to making this family work successfully. They established a family meeting system, gathering every Sunday evening to discuss any issues or concerns. A year later, Acua became pregnant. This news filled the entire family with joy. James was finally going to become a father, the moment he had dreamed of. The other three wives were also happy for Acua, and they began preparing to welcome this new life. Acua gave birth to a healthy boy, whom James named Kofi James, in honor of the friend who had brought him to Ghana. A few months later, Ajuman also became pregnant, followed by ESI and Abina. Over the next 3 years, James became the father of 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. Each child inherited characteristics from both parents, with beautiful mixed-race features and multicultural backgrounds. James discovered that being a father was more fulfilling and challenging than he had imagined. Becoming a new father in his 60s meant he needed more physical strength and patience, but it also gave him an unprecedented sense of life vitality. He began learning traditional Ghanaian lullabies and communicating with the children in both English and local languages. His wives showed remarkable cooperation in child-rearing. They divided responsibilities. Acua handled educational planning. Ajuman managed healthcare. ESI organized creative activities, and Abina took care of outdoor activities and nutrition. The children grew up in this environment, receiving love and attention from multiple mothers. Of course, this family structure also faced various challenges. Sometimes the wives would disagree about child-rearing methods or family decisions, and James needed to play the role of mediator. He learned to listen, understand, and compromise, skills he hadn't used much in his previous life. Relatives and friends from America were initially confused and even critical of James's choice. His brother Robert said on the phone, "James, are you crazy? Making such a fuss at over 60. But when Robert visited Ghana and saw the harmony of James's family and the happiness of the children, he changed his mind. "I have to admit," Robert told James before leaving, "I've never seen you this happy. These children are joyful, and your wives are remarkable. Perhaps we Westerners have too narrow a definition of family." James also faced challenges of cultural adaptation. He needed to learn how to balance different cultural expectations, how to respect Ghanaian traditions while maintaining his own identity. Sometimes he felt confused, but his wives always patiently helped him understand and adapt. Language was also a challenge. Although English was Ghana's official language, in family life, the local language Akan was more commonly used. James worked hard to learn it, and although his pronunciation wasn't standard, his efforts earned the respect of his family and community. As the children gradually grew up, James began thinking about how to pass on his values and knowledge to them. He established a family workshop where he taught the children basic engineering principles and problem-solving methods. He also encouraged them to learn the history and traditions of both cultures. 7-year-old Kofi James was particularly interested in mechanics and often helped his father repair household equipment. 5-year-old Ama Esi loved drawing and design, and her works combined American and Ghanaian artistic elements. The other children also had their own strengths. Some were interested in medicine, some liked agriculture, and some excelled in languages. James realized that as a father, his responsibility was not just to provide material support, but more importantly to be a role model and guide for his children. He began keeping a diary, recording each child's growth process, hoping to pass these precious memories on to them in the future. He also established an education fund to ensure all children could receive good education. He planned for them to understand Ghanaian cultural traditions while also having access to international educational resources. He hoped these children would become bridges connecting different cultures in the future. Every night, James would take turns telling bedtime stories to the children. Sometimes they were American folk tales, sometimes Ghanaian traditional stories, and sometimes adventures about cross-cultural families that he made up himself. These story times became the most precious moments in their family life. 10 years passed, and James's family had fully integrated into the local community. He used his engineering expertise to make many contributions to the community. He designed and built a solar-powered community center, improved the infrastructure of local schools, and helped establish a clean water project. His wives also achieved success in their respective fields. Acua became the regional education director. Ajuman opened her own clinic. ESI's handicrafts gained international recognition, and Abina led a sustainable agriculture project. Their success proved that in polygamous families, women could equally pursue their own careers and dreams. The community elders were proud of this cross-cultural family success. At a tribal meeting, The chief publicly praised James. This American friend has shown us what true cultural respect means. He didn't come to change us, but to learn and contribute. His family is a valuable asset to our community. James's story also spread to other regions, and some international media came to interview this special family. James always emphasized that his choice was not a criticism of Western marriage systems, but an exploration of diverse lifestyles. Love has no fixed pattern, he said in an interview. What matters is honesty, respect, and commitment. I'm fortunate to have found 4 women willing to share life with me, and together we've created a family full of love. Now, 72-year-old James sat in his home garden, watching the children play on the grass. The eldest, Kofi James, was already 17 and preparing to apply for university. He wanted to study engineering, inheriting his father's profession, but also wanted to research sustainable development to contribute to Africa's development. The other children were also thriving, speaking fluent English and Akan, with deep understanding of both cultures. Their identities were multiple, both American and Ghanaian, both individuals and part of a large family. James's 4 wives were now all in their 40s. They had chosen this special family model at different stages of their lives, and now they all felt satisfied and happy. Their friendship had weathered the test of time, evolving from initial cautious cooperation to deep sisterhood. Do you regret it? Acua asked James one day. Regret leaving America and choosing this life? James shook his head, his eyes sparkling with satisfaction. Never. This was the best decision I ever made. I found what I was always looking for: family, purpose, and the continuation of love. Their family story had been written into local history, becoming a model of cultural fusion and successful diverse families. James knew that when he grew old, his legacy would not just be wealth, but 6 children with dual cultural identities, for women who had realized their self-worth, and a family that proved love could transcend race and culture. 20 years later, James was 92 years old. Although his body wasn't what it used to be, his spirit remained sharp. His children had all established careers and families, some working in America, some staying in Ghana, but they all regularly returned home for reunions. Grandchildren surrounded their grandfather, listening to him tell the story of the decision that changed all their fates. Their existence proved the correctness of James's choice years ago. Love could indeed exist in multiple forms. Families could be constructed in different ways, and cultural fusion could create beautiful new lives. James looked at this large family he had built with his own hands, his heart filled with peace and satisfaction. He had realized his dream, becoming a father, continuing his bloodline, and creating a world full of love. Under the Ghanaian sunset, this cross-cultural extended family gathered together, sharing dinner and stories. Here was American pragmatism, Ghanaian traditional wisdom, modern concepts of equality, and ancient family bonds. The existence of this family itself was a miracle, proving what surprises and gifts life could offer when people approach the world with open hearts. James MacDonald's story tells us that it's never too late in life to start over. Love has no fixed pattern, and the definition of family can be far broader and more inclusive than we imagine. In this diverse world, perhaps we all need more courage to explore different lifestyles and embrace choices that seem different but are actually beautiful.